Hello, everyone. Hello, who is watching us. Welcome to our interview with Allisha Ali. Do I pronounce it correctly?
Perfect.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this interview because Allisha has a lot of experience in career building and also in shifting from corporate world into entrepreneurship. And from what I know, there are also challenges, surprises, and prizes coming, which also sounds really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to it. Before we launch, I will read through the introduction, let's say, about Allisha. And then, Allisha, if you feel like you want to add something more to it, then you can add. So Allisha is the founder and principal coach at UniqueYou Careers, with the mission to support professionals to define and achieve their career aspirations, enabling them to lead a more fulfilling life. That's what I like, fulfilling life. She also provides career coaching services to job seekers. Allisha is unique, having fulfilled an academic career, a corporate career, and now an entrepreneur. Holding a Ph.D. in chemistry, wow, impressive. Allisha enjoyed a successful scientific corporate career in the pharmaceutical industry. So range of experience is quite impressive. By the way, whoever is listening to us, say hello. As usual, I'm curious to know where you're connecting from and what are your aspirations. Are you in business or are you in corporate? I suppose you're in corporate if you're watching us, because that's the topic of our today's interview, how to make the shift, how to make the transition from the corporate world into entrepreneurship. And I know for the fact it's not an easy thing to do. Well, I suppose for some it's easier than for others. For me, it was a catastrophe. I only managed to do my shift from the second time. So I'm really curious to hear what Allisha has to say, because indeed it's not an easy thing to do. And sometimes when we go into it, we are not ready for underwater stones which are waiting for us. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Allisha, the floor is yours. I close my mouth.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you and your team for getting me on board onto this live. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you and to have this discussion with you, to really help your audience to understand that it's not scary, it's doable to shift from a corporate career to entrepreneurship. But we all have to be smart about it. And we can take this in several angles. But I think that shift doesn't come naturally. And it's something that most of us have somewhere within us. Not necessarily to become a business owner, but sometimes it's just to change what we are doing and maybe to shift into a different type of corporate environment, a different industry. So there are several angles we can take from this. But when you think about it, nobody takes that move for themselves. Usually it's some circumstance that triggers why we want to do that. And I did a small research online in another Facebook group. And some of the things that came up was people start reflecting on themselves, their values, and what they're about. And they realize what they're doing is they're misaligned totally. And if you're misaligned, then it's difficult to get up every day and be motivated for whatever you're doing. Now, the counter side of that is the salary and the security that comes with the salary. And I read once recently, I wish I had read it earlier, where I read this sentence that says, the fastest way to kill a dream is to have a salary. So many of us have dreams, but we become dependent. We're human beings. We like, if you know Maslow's hierarchy, the first thing we need is security. And if we have that security, then it stifles our ambition. It stifles our ability to dream big or dream bigger. And, we also like comfort. We're human beings. We like comfort and we stay in our comfort zones. So there's so many factors we can talk about today, but maybe I pause there and you can reflect on what I said and we can take it further. Can you hear me, Anna?
Yeah. I can hear you well. I was reflecting.
Sorry.
No, for me, it's interesting what you said, like misalignment of values. That was definitely the big shift for me. But sometimes there are stronger signals, like in my case that I was fired, for example, for 2 times in a row. And yeah, when it happens to you like this, in very bad way as well, you start asking yourself, like, why is it happening? And I could feel that, yeah, the universe is pushing me elsewhere. And it was risky, of course, to leave this safe corporate world and salary, as you said, but I think it was so much worth it.
Indeed. There are several factors. And for myself, it was redundancy, but I did go back into the job market. But then I was already infused with my vision and my dream. So I couldn't survive anymore in corporate. I had to step out. So a lot of people, especially in recent times, as you know, they have lost their jobs for several reasons. And many of them naturally re-enter into another job. They don't have that strong desire. So it's not everyone that loses their job have that entrepreneurship fire within them. And, what triggers that can be external, but it's also the intrinsic factors. So the external factors was the boss, being fired, reorganization, family member becoming ill or something and you had to leave your job. But then the alignment, the intrinsic alignment, your own dreams, your own values, your own identity, I like to call it. Something is missing from your reason for being. Something is not adding up. And we go in search for that. And usually it happens at a more mature age, shall I say. It used to happen in the 40s and early 50s. Now it's happening even earlier because there's so much exposure to, self-reflection and learning about ourselves that you would have the much younger people, even in their 20s, venturing straight from university into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So the cycle is breaking, and that intrinsic motivation is becoming more and more obvious. But still today, it's only 5% of the world's population that are working as a business owner or as a freelance.
Oh, I didn't know this number. It's actually really, really low. So we definitely need more entrepreneurs and we definitely need more people who are fulfilled.
Indeed.
So how do you make the shift?
So let's imagine there's one thing that is really important. And if you're shifting from corporate to entrepreneurship, it's difficult because what's happening is you lose your identity or your identity is shifting. And this, of course, has to do with the ego. And that's why if you leave your job willfully on your part, then it's not so hard on your ego. It's a decision that you took. If you were fired, like in your case, or your job became redundant, like in my case, then this impacts your identity. you know what it's like. I was senior director one day, and the next day I had lost my title completely. I was still in the company, but I was trying to find another job, but it hits hard. It hits really hard on our egos and our identity. We no longer have that title to support us. And when you do leave corporate, if you have nothing else to do and there's a gap, you feel lost. Imagine going to an event, and how do you introduce yourself? You no longer have that title. So all of these things is a challenge. Today it's much easier to hide behind a screen and say whatever, but in person you can see the pain in someone who is going through something like that. So that's why it's important, if you are thinking about it, even if it's your own motivation or through something that happened to you where you had no control, it's important to have someone to be able to help you to accelerate that identity shift that is required. And that's one of the things I could have done faster. It was in my own time, but I could have done it faster, and I would have been able to start my business much quicker.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can imagine. Also thinking about my first experience, it was exactly that. I kind of already was dreaming about being an entrepreneur, and probably one of the reasons why it has happened. Maybe I wasn't fully dedicated as well to the job that I was doing, but when it happened so suddenly, first of all, your ego is like, am I actually good enough to go out there and conquer that world? And then the second one, as you said, the Maslow pyramid, and the first most important need is security. So like running out of money quite quickly and not having any alternative stream of income, that's very painful, I think, particularly for women, especially if you have children. That's the first thing you're thinking about. It's like, okay, how am I going to survive? How am I going to feed myself and my children?
Yes, indeed. Indeed. So one of the things that happens also when you are in that loss of identity, you're still yourself. You still are the same person, but somehow your psyche is playing with you. But one of the things is we start comparing ourselves. We start comparing ourselves with the colleagues we have left behind. We start comparing ourselves. Was it our performance? What did I do wrong? We start doubting ourselves, and all those fears and self-doubts come back. So, all these inhibiting, I call them the pits, the performance inhibiting thoughts, they just flood us. And we really can overnight go into depression. People who have been hit hard by losing their job for whatever reason. Today it seems to be easier because it's happening to everyone left and right, but it hits hard. So we need to understand that our situation is unique. We still have all our skills. We still have all our experience. We still have all our qualifications. We still have all our qualities, our love, our family. The only thing we've lost is our title and our job and that salary that came with it. And if you look on the other side, everything else that you have within you, that's where coaches come in to help you to find that strength again and to help you to find that, clarity and confidence. And the important thing is the courage to get up on your feet again and to start again. If we look at toddlers trying to walk, they fall 100 times and they get up each time. And we forget that we have that ability to do that.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell a little bit more about your experience then? So you lost your job. Did you do you said you came back to corporate, right? So how the shift was happening for you?
Yeah, indeed. Today, I present myself very confidently. I'm a career coach. I own my business. I coach people all over the world. But the last 2 years have been fantastic. But the 2 years before that is where, after my first redundancy, where I really, it was not depression. It was not lack of self-love. It was just like I was in a zone that I can't really describe. But what happened, if I may share my story, is that I had gone that year, it was 2016, on a beautiful family holiday to Italy. We had a classical European holiday, a villa, swimming pool, everything, the works. And during this 3-week holiday, I started to get this. We talked about intuition before we came on. I started to get this feeling, this nauseous feeling that something is not right. And I was, when I left, everything was okay with my job. So I wasn't worried about my job, but something was not adding up for me. And I went back to the office. And the very first day, my boss called me in. And that's a sign. If your boss called you in the very first day after your holiday, you did not have an appointment, something is wrong. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? And I knew before it happened. I knew I wasn't going to be fired, but I somehow knew something was going to go wrong. And we sat there in this room and he broke the news to me. And I was like, I'm a strong woman. I'm senior director. I'm a leader. I can manage this conversation. I can negotiate. But I didn't. My amygdala hijacked me. And I broke down. It was the first time I had cried. And I don't know, when I say broke down, I was sobbing. I was sobbing and I had no control of myself. So this already was a sign that I was, it was going to take me a long time to heal. On reflection, I didn't know back then. And when that happened to me, we sat there. He didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. But there was no turning back. And we were in this 4-meter cubicle with a glass door. Everyone can see us. I was sobbing away. He was in total shock. And then eventually, I don't know how long we stayed in that room, but eventually we left. And I went home immediately. And on my way home, I realized that whatever I do, I don't want this to happen to anyone else that I know. And that was my trigger to do something in the career domain, to be able to help people to really proactively manage their careers, to take back control of their careers. Because if we get comfortable with our salaries, if we get comfortable with our titles and positions, we never know when it's going to be taken away from us. So we need to be prepared. And that was my mission back then, even before I thought of opening a business. And today, that's my mission, really to help them to find the power again, the courage, and really the confidence to go back out there. Because what happens is you become, I was feeling useless, helpless, and also hopeless. So if I can help people, like you help people, Anna, if we can help people to find that place of, their own self-worth again, then we are we're making a big impact on the world and on people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And so important. Hearing stories like yours, or like mine, are extremely important because like getting redundant and being fired, that happens to all of us. And
Mm-hmm.
um, we are not taught, especially like women, to, as you said, to heal. And our perception actually is, yeah, get over it and go ahead, but it's actually a huge shock.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listen to your story, and you got redundant, and it's already painful. And then when I recall my story, where there were three men in front of me threatening me, so I would sign the paper, not letting me call anyone. I think for I was denying for a while that it was really shocking situation that changed my whole life. That of course impacted how I see myself, and trying to understand, was it really me who did something that wrong so I would be treated like this,
Mm-hmm.
or it's them? And trying
Mm-hmm.
to find that balance, like maybe accepting a bit your wrongdoings, but at the same time still believing in your worth and in your value and healing. Because I think I was suppressing it for a long period of time, because it started to manifest in my body as well, in the pains and aches and everything. So I think I didn't take time to heal and to release that shock and that pain. And it's good that you're mentioning it. And so whoever is
Yeah.
listening to us, yeah, um, take time to heal and take back your worth. And maybe Allisha can share with us a couple of tactics of how we can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Indeed, I can. When we say take time to heal, the first thing to realize, it doesn't have to be as long as it took me or maybe you, Anna. There are ways to accelerate that. And that's why coaches and mentors come in, because they help us to realize where we are. And we also get feedback from them, and we are able to, slowly but surely come out of that. Doing it by yourself is also feasible, but it can take longer. Eventually, I got a coach to help me because I got fed up with myself, basically. So, indeed, what you said about acceptance. So, the first phase we go into is really the victim phase, where we can't believe it's happened to us and we immediately blame others. This is human nature again, it's the human condition. We have to find somewhere to rationalize what happened. And the easiest way to do that is to blame others. And that's okay, you can do it. But if you do it for too long, then you stay the victim for too long. And the next phase is really working with someone. And it doesn't have to be a coach, it can be a friend, someone who can really help you to accept where you are. So to shift from that blame mode to acceptance mode. The past happened, and let's accept this. And not just saying it, you really have to embody that acceptance. And that's the first place. And we tend to judge ourselves, and being able to move from judgment to a place of curiosity, where we try questioning ourselves instead of judging ourselves. What's happening to me? Why am I not able to get over this? What's next for me? What is trying to emerge from me from this experience? How can I transform into, another butterfly, or to make this butterfly have wings again? So you start asking yourself these questions really in a curiosity manner rather than a judging manner. Why me? Da da da. So we all go through it, but if you switch it from judgment to curiosity, it helps you. And then the third thing is forgiveness. We have to forgive where we are. Forgiveness is quite technical, because by forgiving others, we are able to move on. it doesn't mean that you accept what they did. It means that you have no more resentment for the past, and you are able to accept that, forgive, and move on. So the self-acceptance, the switch in judgment to curiosity, and letting go of any resentment and that anger we might have inside of us. If you're able to shift that, and that can go quickly, if you're able to shift that, then you are ready to soar again.
Yeah, and how do you do it? Is it with meditation, hypnosis, maybe?
Yeah, I don't. I use classical coaching, which is pure coaching. So it's not coaching like telling people what to do. It's really helping the person transform from within. And that can take about, it depends on the person, but usually between 3 and 6 sessions with someone, they find their own transformation. And it's a deep one-on-one conversation. Other ways to do it is invest in life coaches also. So career coaches and life coaches, our careers and lives are so tightly intertwined, we can't really separate them. But there are life coaches who also specialize in this. So I have colleagues also who would help people to quickly accelerate out of that victim mode. You can also supplement that with reading a lot of books, which would also help you with guided meditations, because most of those authors, they also have set up their own apps and so on. My favorite author who really helped me, spiritual teacher, was Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now and Letting Go. So he had there are so many videos on YouTube. And I always say to myself and to my clients, if you get a dose of Eckhart Tolle once a week, you're okay. So yeah, so there are different methods. As some people, coaching can be expensive. So some people, it's a trade-off, right? Because you can spend 2 years like me and not invest in coaching, but you've lost 2 years of where you could have built something, you could have had a salary again, or you could have an income again, or you can, you can try to do it yourself, or you can quickly invest in yourself. And okay, it might be expensive, but a quick investment to get quick results so that you can move on is where you have to decide, as someone who might be experiencing what we are talking about, what's the trade-off they want to make.
Yeah, it's funny, like when something like this happens to you, getting redundant and fired, sorry. That's not the first thing you are thinking about. Like, okay, now I need a coach to kind of clear my karma and all those negative emotions. Yeah, people think maybe about psychologists that just to release pain, but we don't really think about, a coach who could let us heal and put us on the rails to go forward. And I'm actually glad you mentioned Eckhart Tolle. I have him as my bedside book. So whenever I have anxiety or I can't fall asleep, I would read a couple of pages and yeah.
Which is your favorite, The Power of Now or The New Earth?
I have Power of Now.
Yeah.
I think I haven't read the other.
So The New Earth is actually the better one to start with if you're new into this type of adventure, shall I call it. It's easier to read than The Power of Now.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get it as well.
Yeah, so it's a big difference. If I may touch on what you said in terms of getting therapy versus a coach. If the person is in depression, of course, we are not qualified as coaches to do that. So if someone comes to me, for example, and I can see that they're depressed or heavy burnout, I would never try to coach them. I have an affiliate group of therapists that I can refer them to.
And how do you see, by the way, like heavy burnout? How does it manifest?
Well, it's now recognized by the World Health Organization as a medical condition, and that's why we shouldn't really, as coaches, be coaching on it, at least in Europe. But the symptoms can vary. Some people can really go into shell shock. They don't want to leave their houses anymore. Some people, they can't think clearly. So there are several things. Sometimes it's physical symptoms where they can muscle degradation can start. So several things can happen. The body is in total shock. So I'm not an expert. I would say that straight out, but usually you can recognize it from the coherency also of the conversation you might be having with that person, and from there, as you want the best for your client. So if you cannot serve them, it's part of the ethics of coaching also to pass them on to someone else who can support them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But let's say, so then there is the first phase is healing, or for example, if you weren't fired, finding your, anyways, so sort of self-confidence. So there is this first stage, and what would be like the second stage the person should go into to make it?
So the second, so let's imagine, well, we actually covered two stages. The first one was the victim and being locked in that, and then going through the acceptance and curiosity, and letting go of resentment and any anger you might have. So that's like the second. If you know the change curve, it's like the valley of despair, where you start letting go and you slowly come up on the other side. And coming up on the other side is where we start to realign with ourselves. We might develop new values. We might realize we have values that we didn't have before. We might realize we have new dreams. There's a methodology in coaching called Transform Map, where you work with the client to envision their future. Some people talk about it. Some people can visualize it through meditation and so on. But the whole idea there is it's not necessary to find what they want to do, but it's to create memories in the future. Because when you visualize and you envision, you are creating a memory. The brain doesn't know the difference, whether it's happened in the past, now, or the future. You've created that image of yourself. And being able to do that helps you to see new light on the possibilities and different options that you might have. So visualization, sometimes there are also exercises on writing where the client, not during your time with the client, but afterwards on their own. Journaling is powerful. So they just let themselves go, and you write and you visualize and you write. And eventually something comes up for you, and you start day by day. Remember that uselessness I talked about, and that hopelessness. Day by day, you grow, and each time you become more hopeful, and you become more, useful. You start getting into new projects. You start joining groups like your group. You start getting involved again, and before you know it, you're back on track. But visualization is a powerful way to start that process.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about it, and I can bring probably a very good example of how it can change your life, because so when I lost 2 jobs in a row, so I went into my 3rd job, and everything was going well, but I already had the seed of that I want to have something in my life that would really excite me. And I went to ayahuasca. I don't know if you ever heard about this kind of experience. Yeah, it's a herb with which you kind of go into your subconscious, and it was, I think, 3 days experience. It was absolutely crazy.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it actually wasn't that fun. I don't have time to tell the whole story, but in short, what my subconscious has shown me is that I have a lot of fears, and my subconscious is trashed by those fears of what's going to happen, or all the horrible things that I imagine, of course, after being fired for 2 times. That fear is constantly within you. And I already could feel that something is going to happen, just like you said, when you were in Italy on holidays. I could really feel that something is going to happen. So my subconscious showed me, okay, so there are 2 parts. One is completely trashed with all the fears that I have, and then the other part is completely empty. So it was just green, and there were 3 trees on it and nothing else. And basically my subconscious was kind of showing me, look, this is your reality. You only have fears, and you have nothing defined on your side of dreams. And that was the biggest revelation. And I was already at my 36, 37 years old. And I was like, okay, how can you arrive to that age and not even knowing what you really want? Because we are a bit confused by what society expects from us, get a good job, get a good salary, and just be a good employee. And so I haven't really dreamt about anything. Like, I knew I want maybe my business one day, but not the result of that. I mean, like, you can have your own business, but what is the result of that? What do you really want to enjoy in life apart from that business? So when I came from ayahuasca, and I started to work on purpose, let's say, on my dreams. So I would close my eyes and I was like, okay, Anna, what are you enjoying? What would you like to have in your life that would make you actually happy? And the sea appeared in my eye, in my conscious, or it's a conscious, let's say, daydreaming, and yachting and transparent waters. And I was like, okay, I mean, it's beautiful, it's fun, but how does it play with my reality? I'm in Belgium, there is no blue sea or anything. What is the connection? And so what happened, in 2 days, I got redundant. And in 3 days, my former, my acquaintance that I haven't talked like for 7 years has appeared. And who knows me, you've heard the story for many times. And he told me, oh, look, I was observing you for a while. Like, I really like what you're doing in terms of female empowerment. And he said, look, I became a skipper. So I organize yacht trips. Would you like to organize yacht trips?
That's where I got it. I saw it on your profile.
And I was like, oh my God, like, how is it even possible? Because sometimes we try to rationalize. That's what we are taught to do, being rational all the time. But sometimes you need to trust your intuition, and really, like, what's you love within you, and then the universe starts to align those true dreams.
So there's this powerful book called, the title doesn't really reflect the power of the book, Think and Grow Rich, which you probably know. And the basis of that book is whatever we can visualize, whatever your unique mind can visualize, that means that you have the capacity to realize it, to manifest it, to make it happen. Yeah. And it's a powerful statement, and that's the way we are made up, and that's how People think visualization is just blah blah, but if it's used in the right way, it can really help you. And there's another exercise which I learned from Vishen Lakhiani from Mind Valley. He calls it the 3 most important questions. So if you want to break down your visualizations, and it's what makes us happy. It's like our happiness index. We have the ask yourself what experiences you want to have in the future. So your Yorton was an experience. You wanted to live that experience, that type of activities. The second one is about your own personal growth. Where do you want to be? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to start lecturing? Do you want to, anything about you becoming a better person, improving your skills? And the last one is how you serve your community. And, so many happiness studies have been done, and our community starts with our family and our relationships, and then it grows bigger and bigger. And if you are able to really have dreams in all 3 dimensions, then you'll be happy every day trying to achieve them, getting closer each time. And guess what? When you reach one, your dream is going to get bigger, because that's the way we are built in the universe.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, you need to review your dreams, and we change as well. Sometimes we go into entrepreneurship with a certain idea of what we want and how it's going to be, and it turns out sometimes completely different. Like I started from building the community of fearless female founders. But what I've also figured out that perhaps the certain things that I wanted to do are not what I actually enjoy doing. So you reinvent yourself along the way. And I think one of the strongest skills of entrepreneur is being able to see what you can change and what you cannot change, and move with the flow as well.
Yeah.
Because like what we are taught when we are kids as well, when we grow, that you need to choose that one thing that you are good at, that you love, and then you have to stick to it, and go. For some people it works. That's fine. Like my partner is like that. He graduated from the university knowing what he wants to do. He started the company, and all his focus is in there. And he's moving for 8 years with very strong focus. But I am just not like that. I would not be able to be happy doing just one thing. And like all my life, I was told that you need to focus on one thing. I don't want to focus on one thing. I'm not linear. And this is the important thing to understand as well, what kind of personality you are when you move into entrepreneurship, or even when you are in the career. Like what really makes you happy as a person, as a personality. And once you know more about yourself, it's easier to navigate those waters, no matter what other people will tell you. Because sometimes you can have even coaches telling you like how you should be, to succeed. The first signal for that is like, do you feel contradiction within you when you hear those kind of things, when people tell you that you should be a certain way?
It doesn't happen that often anymore. I think I've become so bold, brave, and that I don't get that. But I see it happening to still a lot of people. They fall into it's like, I am on this path and I'm happy and I'm secured, and we spoke about it earlier, and I'm gonna go on this path as long as I can. And then we have this terminology we use in career coaching where you meet a crossroad. And that's when some people it happens earlier, and some people it happens later, some people even after they're retired. So that we are each unique, and we have no idea when that's going to happen to us. And as I said earlier, it's happening sooner and sooner with the new generations. So when that happens, that's where we get into doubt with what we are doing. We start taking courses on different things, experimenting, and this is okay. But if you then stick on your path without understanding what's going on with you, then you can be miserable for a long time. And that's what happened to me when I went back into a second job. I was fooling myself thinking that's what I wanted. But before you know it, my alignment was killing me. I couldn't, my office was next to my bedroom and I couldn't get to it because I was like, this is not what I want. This is not what I want. I want to do something else. And when that happens, that's when we really need to reflect on, we speak a lot about passion, and you must have heard of the Ikigai principle. So the Ikigai is a Japanese concept for our reason for being, and there are 4 areas. And the first one is what we are good at. What we are happy when we do something that we're good at. And that's why people who do degrees and so on, they stick in their lane, because like me, I'm a Ph.D. chemistry, and I stuck with chemistry. So I was good at it. Then we start to move on to what we love to do. And it's not necessarily what we're good at.
Yeah.
And then we start to move on as we mature. Is what I'm doing really making an impact on the people around me, in my community, in my country, in the world? And we start thinking how we can make an impact. And of course, if you do all of those 3 and you are not compensated for it, then you feel like, oh, I'm doing all this work and I'm not being paid. So you need to have all 4 criteria: what you're good at, what you love to do, your impact on the community, and being paid for it. And that tends to constitute a good career. Now, you would talk about, how do I know what I love to do? And that's where we come down to passion. And that's where those coaching conversations, a true coach can never tell you what your passion is, but they would help you to reveal for yourself what your passion is. There are exercises you can do. Like, for example, you can make a list of all the things you're curious about. We spoke about curiosity. What would you do if you're not being paid for it? What would you do if you were not scared? What would you do if you had a weekend by yourself? Besides sitting on the beach and drinking cocktails, what would you be doing? And these types of self-questioning, if you don't have a coach, can help you to reveal your passions.
Yeah, there is another question that really helped me when I was searching for my passion. Is, so when you wake up in the morning, you would think, without what, me wouldn't be me. So if there would be like 1, 2 things that would be taken away from you, you would say, well, this is not me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was definitely traveling and sharing, being public, being visible. And that's how, it connects me to fearless female founders, finding great speakers like you, sharing my knowledge, and then traveling, organizing your tours if COVID allows.
Yeah, that's one of my dreams too. I don't know where it came from. I am from the Caribbean originally, Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh.
So we have a lot of sea, Caribbean Sea, beautiful. But somehow yachting is a very expensive sport. So I was never in that circle. But I read a book once that had a strong impact on me with respect to this. It was fiction, but that image stayed with me, and it's one of my dreams. So maybe we can connect at some point on that.
actually yachting sometimes is cheaper than normal holidays. So, for example, we are thinking about organizing tours in Seychelles, Maldives. And if you think about going on holidays to Maldives and spend time in a hotel, it's going to be a fortune.
I know.
While if you're going on a yacht with several other people, it's actually much more affordable. So holiday on a 1 week holiday on a yacht can be like from 450 to like 1,000 something euro. And for
only?
Yes.
I'll sign up. I'll sign up for the next one.
So
once we can travel again.
Well, we actually can travel. So the day before yesterday, they removed.
Yeah. In Belgium, it was just released. Yeah.
So we are going to Croatia in June, and there is one open
Super.
spot. One open spot, so that you know.
Super.
Okay, so we have 9 minutes left. Is there anything else you want to tell to our listeners?
There's so much to say, of course. But you know, I truly believe that sometimes we have to accept that, as you said, when we get those signals from within, the intrinsic motivators we spoke about, it's not to just brush them away. And not everyone can become an entrepreneur. It takes a lot. You and I know it takes a lot. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes capital. It takes time. Sometimes you have to retrain yourself, like I did.
Change of mindset. Yeah, loads of
things. You have to do the marketing. You have to find your clients. And when you start, it's a one-woman show, right? At some point, we make enough money to be able to hire someone to support us. But initially, it's basically solopreneur unless you have a big crowdfunding and you have a strong capital. So when we get those urges, I always say to potential clients who come to me, Allisha, I want to change my job. I said, hold on. Let's think about what you want to do first, and you hold on to your job. Okay, that's my message. Hold on to your job because, as we said, everyone needs that level of security. And if you jump straight into entrepreneurship without trying, at least use your weekends, use your nights, work out exactly, get clarity on what you want to do, who you want to serve, what's your mission, really what's your passion, and work with someone to build that while you're still in your job. And you are privileged to still be in your job, then work with that. And eventually you'll be able to shift over to your entrepreneurship, whatever it is. And sometimes, you know, people, they're ready to take the plunge, and that's okay. But in today's world, my advice would be to really don't take forever, because then it's not going to happen. So move from that visualization into action and then start optimizing. And when you get into the optimization phase, then you can start switching into either freelance or straight into a business. And then you know it's working, your model is working, you feel good about it. And the people, depending on the type of business, if it's product or service, people are engaged with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important what you're saying now, so important. And I'm so glad to hear the confirmation of my own belief that you should never burn the boats. And so when I was taking all those trainings, when I wanted to become an entrepreneur, they were mainly male-made courses. And there was this thing of burning your boats and jumping in whatever you want to do. And I think this is so not for women. It's probably also not for
men either.
But particularly for women, I think we get more frozen by the situations when in 3 months we start to run out of money and we don't know how to feed ourselves and feed our children. And I have also quite some women coming to me and saying, look, Anna, my batteries are dying. Saying, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
They're saying, okay, Anna, can you tell me, like, I've got this brilliant idea and I'm like nearly sure that it's gonna work out. Should I leave my job and go into entrepreneurship? So, you know, I could dedicate more time to this idea of mine. And I always say, no, don't do that. Please don't do that, because you definitely need to take more time.
Have I lost you, Anna?
Have that financial.
You're back.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to build your financial pillow, let's say, and that's why I'm so trying to motivate everyone to start investing in stocks as soon as possible. So you would grow your portfolio, and it could be your safety pillow as well. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. Whoever is listening to us, yeah, take your time to even test your idea, because we might believe that it will fly in 3 months, but it doesn't. Most of the time, it doesn't fly in 3 months, or even in 1 year or 2 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3 years. So you need to understand that, because looking at social media, where we are cheated, let's say, by the messages like build your business in 7 days, or become
all the challenges.
my God, yeah. This is just not the reality.
No. And so people need to really, you know, the visualization and creating that memory in the future that we spoke about, that is so powerful that people believe that it's already happening. But until the money ends up in your bank account, nothing is happening. You can have the best brand, you can have the best message, you can have the best methodology. Remember the Ikigai I said, if you're not being paid for it, then you're doing voluntary work. And if you have enough resources so that you can live on voluntary work, then that's great also. And that's why a lot of people who transition, they also do a lot of voluntary work, because they give back more to their communities. So it's you need to have all four. And if you don't have it, then you might as well work in parallel with your job.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of women, when we start building our businesses, let's say, we focus too much on making our customer happy and satisfied, rather focusing on our own well-being and financial well-being, first of all.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation on our relationships with money, right?
Exactly. So shifting that mindset, because when you're at work, money kind of come automatically, right? And when you are an entrepreneur, you kind of think, okay, if I'm giving all of me to my customers and I overwork and I'm being nice, then the money will come eventually. That doesn't always work like that. So you really need to put money first kind of mindset, because if you don't have money, you cannot serve.
Exactly. Yeah. So every coach I know has gone through this. We do free coaching at the start, and then eventually we test our methods, and then we creep up our prices. We keep testing. It's like that dial on when you're doing music mixing. You keep going up until you find that point that works for you and your clients. So it's not you have to give value for the money that you would be getting. And if you can find that right place for you and your client, then it works well. But indeed, especially women, we do have that tendency to give, but everything has a continuum. If we're given, we need to receive also. And until that clicked for me, then I was not able to, really feel comfortable in asking for my prices. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then I would say get your relationship with money sorted. The faster, the better.
Yeah, and it's also not straightforward, right? You need to learn to do that, and it took me quite some time, and it's still a journey. Yeah, a lot of books, a lot of courses, but
I'm not 100% there, so don't think I am.
No, me neither. And that's why I said it's a journey. I think it's a lifetime journey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 1 hour already that we are talking.
Wow.
Time flies when you have fun. So you can say maybe the final words for our listeners.
Yeah, I think regardless of what you do, whether it's you have a career as a professional and you have a job, or you're entrepreneur or you're freelance, regardless of your age, I think we all can dream bigger. Yeah. Even within your job, you can dream bigger to become something better, to lead. So my message is really threefold, that we can all proactively manage our path, not to map it out step by step, but to proactively know what's happening and where we want to go. And in so doing, our ability to be more of ourselves, true and authentic to ourselves, to lead more by helping and serving others and clearing the path for others to follow. And more importantly, yachting and so on, to live more. For us to be able to be more, lead more, and live more. That's my brand message. And it comes from a place where I want that for me, and I know that everyone has a unique recipe of that. And if you can find that and fulfill it, then you will indeed have a fulfilling life.
Allisha, thank you so much for being with us today. So maybe let our listeners know if they want to find you, where do they find you?
Yeah, great. Thanks for the opportunity, Anna. It's really been a pleasure. And if anyone wants to just have a chat with me to find out how I can support them, they can find me on LinkedIn. That's the primary fastest way. Or you can go onto my website, allisha-ali.com. And there you would be able to find a link to book, I believe it's 20 minutes with me, so we can have, a conversation before to see how I can best support you.
Great.
Other than that, I'm all over social media, so you can find me. Yeah.
Allisha, thank you so much again. Thank you for your energy. It's very soothing, by the way. It's very calming. I think just talking to you made me more relaxed. And thank you for sharing your vulnerable story. I think it's also really important. So others could relate and not think that everyone around is all perfect and achieves the dreams like this, like it's you on social networks.
Indeed.
Not like that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Allisha, and
thank you.
Thank you, the listeners as well.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Anna and team.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.